Welcome to the show called We Talk About Sports Stuff, where we talk about, what do you know, sports stuff. Got my co-anchor, Jocelyn Abrams, to the left of me, and to the left of her, we have our correspondent, Gabriel Medina. So, what's on the agenda for today, guys?
Well, we're going to kick off talking about Adam Silver's statements on mental health in the NBA. Then I'm going to talk about how three Adidas execs got sent to prison. And you're talking about?
I'll be talking about the recent game announcements for the EVO Championship Series and how one particular game wasn't announced this year.
So, I don't know if you guys have heard, but Jason Bergman of NFL.com just reported that center Philadelphia Eagles player Jason Kelce has agreed to a one-year contract extension with the Eagles once more through 2021. So I guess the 2020 season is going to kick off his first-year extension. And Ian Rappaport said that Philly made Kelce the league's highest-paid center with the extension, and he's averaging $11 million per year, which is just ridiculous. I mean, it's not as ridiculous as Bryce Harper's deal. That's crazy. And over the next 3 seasons, and he was owed $13.5 million within the next 2 years. And he said it's a tremendous gesture by the team, and he's really happy to be in Philly. And he's been in Philly his whole entire career. So the extension definitely ensures that he's going to be remaining with the Eagles, and it allows Philly to spread his wealth around, and it'll loosen the tight cap situation entering the 2019-2020 NFL season. So it's pretty interesting, honestly. Yeah.
So, a couple days ago, the NBA commissioner Adam Silver was considering shortening the regular season and developing other things to replace the games. But he also talked about how there's a lot of anxiety, which he discusses when he meets with the players, and how he was considering he thinks that some of that has a lot to do with social media and the current usage of and how connected people are to their phones and whatnot.
Yeah. When it comes to stuff like that, it makes sense only because especially when you're a sports player, you're in the limelight almost 24/7, and kind of dealing with the pressures of people, not only fans wanting you to do your best, but also the fans who are kind of constantly critiquing you. It's going to get to the point where it's going to be a bit too much for you.
Right.
I remember last year, I think, Kevin Love was was one of the biggest stories because he said he had a panic attack during game, and that was kind of big.
Yeah, and DeMar DeRozan was talking about how he kind of, I think, addressed some of his depression and mental health, which I think is also important to just I guess how the openness now about mental health is especially important, where several years ago it was kind of not frowned upon, but kind of
taboo.
Ooh. Yeah, I guess
taboo,
kind of, yeah.
And there's still a stigma towards it.
Because a lot of negative stigma surrounding it. So what would then be a good way to reduce this kind of anxiety and mental pressure on these players?
I guess it would kind of having to show the fans that they're people too, they're
human.
That they're human too. They train so long to be on TV, but it doesn't mean that they can that. There's not going to be a whole bunch of pressure.
Doesn't mean they don't have feelings.
Yeah.
I just feel if I were in their shoes, I would definitely either go on social media to address how I'm feeling, or just stay off it completely. I know there's 2 different sides to the spectrum of it, but you definitely would want to address it and tell the fans what's going on and how you're feeling, and just either that or just stay off social media completely.
Right, and I'd also seen something either it was him who said it or I was reading something about this in the same kind of vein about it. Yeah. How in locker rooms, a lot of players will be on their phones a lot and just really tuning out the rest of the whatever else is going on. I mean, it's not you can just have a phone ban in the right. So what do you do? Hopefully it gets better, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, so yesterday, United States District Judge Louis A. Kaplan sentenced 3 men to prison, each connected to Adidas, after they had been paying families to persuade their kids to play for schools sponsored by the brand. Kaplan said he wanted to send a warning to the basketball world and that he needed to balance the message with the realization that people who committed similar crimes or just these crimes weren't being prosecuted in like such a big scandal which has spread through the world of college basketball recruitment. He also said that the leniency for the defendants could only go so far because they knew that what they were doing was wrong. In October, former Adidas executive James Gatto, business manager Christian Dawkins, and former Adidas consultant Merle Code had been convicted of conspiracy to commit wire fraud for sending illegal payments to the families of recruits to Louisville, Kansas, and North Carolina State. According to the prosecutors, coaches had teamed up with Gatto, amongst others, to trade hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes in order to influence athletes' choices of schools, sponsors, agents, and even their tailors. Kaplan stated that this harm goes beyond money and directly impacts the lives of these young athletes. One of these athletes, Brian Bowen Jr., had seemingly been on track for the NBA until it was revealed that his father was supposed to be paid $100,000 for as long as he convinced his son to go to Louisville. During his testimony, his father stated that he wrecked his son's life, and now his son plays basketball in Australia for the Sydney Kings. Kaplan recommends that all 3 men spend their time in maximum security prisons. And on with you.
One of the biggest esports competitions, EVO Championship Series, announced their lineup of games for this year's tournament. However, it came as a shock to the fans of Super Smash Bros. Melee, as it would be the first year the game wasn't going to be a part of the tournament. Instead, the recent incarnation of the game, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, would take its place. I'm a little disappointed that the game isn't there this year. Since the game first came out in 2001, it has been a staple in many video game-related tournaments and has been one of the most competitive games out there. It has seen the rise of many pro Smash players like Joseph Mango Marquez and William Leffen Higelti. It has also been one of the biggest tournaments at EVO since its introduction to the series in 2007. It was always fun to tune in to EVO during the summer to see the Melee tournament. It was one of the few games where a game was played on a box TV while using a console that hasn't been in production for years. Plus, it was a game where all of its flaws and problems were left untouched, so pro players would have to work around it so it could benefit them. With Ultimate taking the place of Melee, one could say that this now opens up the doors for the next generation of gamers. This means that along with the current lineup of pro players will be the next group of individuals who would then take the mantle. For all we know, this year at EVO, we could see the torch being passed down. Another reason as to why the game wouldn't be featured could be the changes that have been made to TVs for the past decade. This means that some TVs don't have the outlet for an RCA connector or the red, yellow, white wires that people usually call them. Most consoles now require an HDMI cable, which has been the RCA's replacement. Since then, TV companies have been adapting them to suit the current market. Plus, it would take some money to get a box TV fixed. Don't worry though, while Melee won't be featured at EVO, it doesn't spell the end of this beloved fighting game. It will still be featured at other tournaments around the world, whether they be big or small. For now, Melee fans will have to sit and wait until the next tournament is announced. While we wait, we can take out our GameCubes and invite a few friends over and play a couple games of Melee. Back to you.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging out with us, and this has been